New York City is known as the concrete jungle, and there's good reason why. Offices, apartments, storefronts, and more flood the city's streets and skylines. But that's not the only real estate that defines the 5 boroughs. If you're looking for a little bit of greenery, or even just a change in scenery, there's no shortage of hidden gems that span the city's over 300 square miles of land. It's time to take a look beyond the concrete jungle, and we'll start right here in Midtown Manhattan, where residents are making the most out of the little space they've carved out in the heart of the city.
With more warmer weather hitting the forecast, this 5-part series will take you to one top spot in each borough where you can enjoy the outdoors and take a break from the normal city sights. Come along as we take a look at Paley Park in Manhattan. Now, one thing New York is known for is fitting a lot in a small space. And some places across the city have done their best at cramming an outdoor escape between towering buildings. They're called pocket parks, a trend especially popular in big cities. Pocket parks are said to have gotten their start after World War II, where people in Europe were finding ways to bring some beauty to the post-war streets on limited resources. These small parks then expanded from Europe to the States in the 1950s. That's according to the American Planning Association. Paley Park in particular is named after William Paley, former CBS chief executive. He both funded and developed the effort in the 60s. It's located in Midtown, just a short walk from St. Patrick's Cathedral. Now, tucked inside this small space, you can take a break from work by sitting at one of the outdoor tables or enjoying the sounds of a 20-foot waterfall splashing down. But this park isn't the only of its kind, even though it's considered a trailblazer as the first vest pocket park. You'll be able to stumble across several other mini parks around the city. Few examples: Elevated Acre in downtown Manhattan and Green Acre Park, also in Midtown. So if you're in need of some time outside, you can count on Paley Park to be a small but beautiful destination.
Paley Park is no doubt a great place for people to gather, but some spaces across New York City only exist because of community members' initiatives to grow them from the ground up. Heading to Manhattan's neighbor to the east, this community garden in Brooklyn is both connecting neighbors and preserving the place that they call home.
The Gill Hodges community garden runs deeper than what you might see growing on the surface. For those in Gowanus, Brooklyn, it's an intersection for neighborhood connection and environmental impact. The New York Restoration Project has 52 community gardens across the 5 boroughs, with a common goal that weaves through all their locations.
The New York Restoration Project is, we were founded to help, preserve green space in neglected neighborhoods. A community garden allows community members to have an active part in a green space.
So how do people find themselves joining the ranks of community gardeners in the city? For these 2 sisters, the connection is deeply personal.
We were looking for a place for our sister's memorial tree, and it was a wish of hers that she made known to her friends and family that she wanted a memorial tree planted in her memory.
Friends and family come from far and wide to have a Roxana tree party.
So there is that family connection as well as the community garden connection. The gate is open, so anybody's welcome to come in and join us.
And this open gate policy translates to the day-to-day work as well, with each member contributing a little bit differently to the space.
I really like talking to people that just stop by the garden for the first time. Sometimes they're not sure it's open to the public, and to invite them in and let them know, yes, it's a public garden. It's very inclusive. Whatever you want to do to participate, you can go everything from, like, if you get some seeds, we'll give you part of the bed to plant, to just a local person who walks her dog, so she opens and closes at night.
But even if some neighbors don't know this spot even exists, anyone who lives nearby is feeling its impact.
So this part of the neighborhood in Brooklyn is very prone to flooding. So what we did here, we got a grant from the DEP, a little over $300,000, to help us put in some infrastructure. When the water is coming down the curb, it actually enters into the pit instead of keeping on going to the sewers. It's held in this large tank underneath this grate.
And off the roof, we capture rainwater that goes into a rainwater tub, which has a spigot, so we can use that to water the beds as well.
So basically the garden acts as a big sponge. It collects a lot of water from the surrounding neighborhood and stores it here instead of it flooding the streets.
And while the neighborhood around this lot is changing, the gardeners share why it's important to maintain an area like this for residents both old and new.
This is a neighborhood, as well as others in the city, that are just being taken over by giant towers of buildings that, may or may not attract all the people to live in them. That, these green spaces are really essential, I think, to a livable city. We can't all live near Central Park or Prospect Park or some of these larger green spaces, so this is what we have, right? And so I think we all have to contribute to maintaining it and preserving it for, us and the next generation.
While this community garden is all about paving an environmentally friendly future for their neighborhood, this next spot is all about preserving the past. Down in Staten Island, you can take a trip, both back in time and around the world, to Ming Dynasty China. Here's a look.
Most people walk in and they're like, oh, it doesn't feel like I'm in New York anymore.
They had no idea that this treasure is here.
This treasure being the New York Chinese Scholars Garden, a destination based on Ming Dynasty architecture and history.
So where you are right now is actually the first classical outdoor scholars garden to be built within the United States. We really took the time to study to see what were the types of gardens that were built during the Ming Dynasty.
It's located on the 83-acre campus of Snug Harbor on the north shore of Staten Island, a spot originally a retirement community for sailors, and now where people come from both near and far to explore.
We have people coming, international tourists who come here just to see the New York Chinese Scholars Garden. We also have folks who live a block away who walk their dogs here.
The traditional versions of these gardens you would find in China would be a haven for scholars and their guests.
It's meant to be for a person to develop a deeper appreciation of being interdependent with the nature that's around them. So the scholars would have surveyed the land to see how they could build their garden amongst the nature that was already in existence.
And New Yorkers can experience this too, but it all comes down to the details.
Every bit of our garden is really meant to have some sort of symbolism that we can then internalize for ourselves, right? So when we walked in, you have a bamboo path. It's an evergreen, which means it's actually in the grass family, which means it stays green all year round. So that's kind of like symbolic of staying true to who you are. This message is even more relevant today, especially for like the younger generation, to be like, you don't need to be like someone else. We have one type of flooring that's called bot flooring, which is for the number 8, and the number 8 has like 2 strokes for its character, and 8 is considered to be a good luck number.
And it doesn't end there. Even things like
the rock structure that comes through here,
or
the water,
have meaning behind them too. But whether you're coming as part of a school group or a visit with family and friends, those at Snug Harbor suggest to take the time to focus on enjoying all this hidden spot has to offer.
So often we're in a go, go, go mode that when you come into this garden, it's completely the opposite of the focus in it. Slow down.
Bring your friends, bring a camera, because there's a lot to see and a lot of beautiful places where you can take pictures and capture some family memories. So camera, sneakers, and you're good to go.
Another history-filled destination is on the other side of the city, in the Bronx, where visitors can have the chance to literally walk alongside greatness.
Hall of Fames have been a classic way to spotlight some of the best and brightest. Baseball, football, rock and roll, you name it. But New York City is actually home to America's very first one.
It was the first Hall of Fame in America.
It's been around for over a century. And to check it out, you'll head to this hidden corner of the Bronx Community College. The Hall of Fame for Great Americans is just like its name suggests, a place paying tribute to people who shaped the history, culture, and landscape of the U.S.
The founding fathers of the American Revolution are here. We have about 11 of them here.
Others honored include authors, soldiers, artists, the list goes on. And before diving into how this historic spot came to be, it's hard not to first set your sights on the views that serve as its backdrop.
They took advantage of the spectacular site. It's overlooking the Harlem River, and it's beautifully situated and sited.
But backing up, the campus sits on land once home to NYU's Uptown campus, and this open-air gallery was ideated by former New York University Chancellor Henry McCracken after its construction by lead architect Stanford White. White added these column structures on top of a large substructure that was needed for the adjacent ancient Rome-inspired building that he also constructed.
Without having these columns, it was bare and just a floor of bricks, and that's why he decided to hide it, really, and make it more attractive than it was.
The Hall of Fame holds statues representing 94 people considered great Americans by U.S. citizens who voted for their inclusion.
There were 2 electeds each state that collected the votes and made the final determination.
Of course, times have certainly changed since the last statue honoring President FDR was added in the 70s.
No statues have been placed since 1973 here. They removed 2 statues of Southern generals, Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson. And there are 8 women and 2 African Americans in the Hall of Fame.
So are there plans to add more modern model citizens to the ranks?
No. Unfortunately, whatever plans may have been in works, there's no money for it, so I don't think there will be.
But to check out this place yourself, their post-pandemic visits are structured a little differently. The best way to walk alongside greatness is to reach out to the tour contacts on their website with about a week's notice. From there, they'll work on scheduling a good time to bring you along.
New York City is home to so many popular attractions, whether it be places like these or the more traditional items on your sightseeing bucket list. And the final location we'll explore could give you one more pit stop before heading in or out of the city through the LaGuardia Airport.
The Big Apple is known for its eye-catching views, but in this case, we're not talking about the skyline. Between the clouds, you can set your sights on planes gliding in and out of the city's airports. And this spot in Queens is the right location to do just that. Plainview Park is adjacent to New York City's LaGuardia Airport in East Elmhurst. Its beginning was to some degree forced, starting with a regulation by the Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA mandates that a large piece of land ahead of airport runways stays clear, which is why this real estate was open for a park to exist in the first place. The Port Authority handed over this land to NYC Parks, and a park is the only use these 9 parcels can take on to stay in line with the FAA requirement. Now, this destination is a great place to catch a glimpse of a world traveler's hub, but some take this sightseeing to another level. Plane spotting is a hobby taken on by some aviation enthusiasts. They take note of what aircraft models are flying, photograph planes that catch their attention, and more. Plainview Park is a prime location for this specialty pastime, but it welcomes your everyday traveler as well. So whether you're an NYC native, a frequent flyer, or a plane spotter, this park can make for a unique change of scenery from the typical city views.
Thanks for joining us as we took a look beyond the concrete jungle. For NBC4 New York, this is Emmy Beck-Aden.